Welcome to the newest episode of Duqm Now. I'm Talal Al Shahri, and I'm very happy to say that on this episode we have three of the major players in Duqm. We have with us Harssha Shetty, who is the CEO of Jindal Steel. We also have with us Reggy Vermuelen, who is the CEO of the Port of Duqm. And we have Zakariya Al Hasni, founder and former CEO of SIMAC. Thank you all for joining us, and let's dive right in. Starting with you, Harssha. You are the CEO of Jindal Steel, which is one of the biggest manufacturers in the region and worldwide. In Oman, you have over $3 billion in investment right now. And of course, you have your foray into green steel and a giant plant coming up in Duqm. Can you tell us what made Oman and Duqm stand out for Jindal Steel? Why would you consider investing in a place like Duqm?
Well, it's been 15 years of presence in Oman for Jindal Steel, and we have a really good experience operating here, growing here along with the nation, and partnering the nation building of Oman. So that's the first comfort. That is, having been here for 15 years, we believe Oman is one of the best investment destinations for more than a few reasons. First and foremost, it has the most important currency today in the world. It has been very well proven is geopolitical stability, and Oman stands out globally for that. For any new investor or any existing investor, geopolitical stability is extremely critical to secure the assets on the ground as well as the business continuity. So it has been well proven now, and even for the future, that's the most important aspect. Secondly, of course, Oman, the governance in Oman is extremely business focused in terms of ensuring that especially the manufacturing, which is in line with the Oman 2040 vision. The Oman 2040 vision wants manufacturing or non-oil GDP to be 90% by 2040, and this is the right time for the steel companies or the chemical companies or non-oil based companies to increase the focus in terms of the investments.
How do you see Jindal Steel looking into the green steel energy at this time? Is there any change in how the market is reacting to green steel, whether with geopolitical issues or not?
See, at this, so basically in Duqm we will be producing low carbon intensity steel, and the demand for that is posed to increase since the CBAM is taking into effect in Europe. So there is absolutely no doubts about the green steel or equivalent, the low carbon intensity steel having its market. For now, we are focusing on ensuring we complete the project by 2029, 2030, and so that we start shipping the volumes as committed to our customers. And we don't see any disruption because of this scenario. There is no disruption in the long-term story of green steel or the long-term story of Duqm.
Okay. In 3 sentences, why Duqm for this plant? Duqm specifically.
First and foremost, Duqm is in the green energy zone. So we have one of the best, the top 3 factors required for green energy production in Duqm, which is a key input for producing low carbon footprint steel. 2, Duqm's access to the global markets through the Duqm Port is extremely seamless and strategically located. Now it's more so because it's not inside the Strait of Hormuz. And 3, which I've always been mentioned, is actually the most foremost importance, is the geopolitical stability and the high quality of governance in Oman, which gives us extremely high confidence in our project execution as well as the viability.
Fantastic. Zakariya,
Yes.
You were the founder and you're the former CEO of SIMAC, which is a real success story when it comes to Duqm. What for SIMAC really gave it that edge for it to become such a success story, not just in Duqm, but across the Middle East?
Well, SIMAC is considered, first of all, as the largest fish cannery in whole GCC. And whenever we are talking about manufacturing or food manufacturing, you will be looking at the raw materials to start with, since it's a bioproduct, so it's available in the nature, whether it's agriculture or aquaculture. Now, if you look according to FAO, World Food and Agriculture Statistics Yearly Book, Oman got around 750,000 tons of fish catch, and that's because we have a long coastal, around 3,100 kilometers. And if you zoom it to Al Wusta region, where Duqm is, it's around 270,000 tons. And the Al Wusta region considers the largest region in Oman, where the landing of fish happening in the biggest quantity. Compared to all GCC countries, it is similar catch of amount of fish, around 270,000, which make Duqm a very good place for manufacturing, especially with the seafood industry. Now, if that, the first box is tick, what about the logistics? Because fish is a sensitive product and it requires a cold chain, a very efficient cold chain. You've got the largest fisheries port, not just in Middle East, but in East Africa as well, in Duqm. And I was reading last year they've landed over than 70,000 tons of fish in fisheries Duqm, and I believe this year it will increase. In Duqm as well, there is a proper logistics infrastructure available, and the location of the fisheries industrial area is next to the fisheries port, so which means more efficient supply chain, less risk of breakage within the cold chain, and less costly when it comes to the transportation of raw material. I know SEZAD, they are developing a cold chain projects next to that industrial zone as well. Apart from this, you're having also a large port that actually can link you to the outside world whenever it's required in exporting, importing items. So yes, in Duqm, you've got the raw materials availability, you've got the right infrastructure over there, and you've got the right manufacturing companies are building. Talking about that, this year when I went to Duqm, I saw already 4 products coming up in the same industrial area where SIMAC is, which shows that there is a huge interest from foreign investors to come and invest within Duqm for such industry.
As a founder of SIMAC, how easy or hard was it to set up your factory there? And your factory is on international standards when it comes to how it's produced, when it comes to the green side of things. How was the scenario like for you starting from scratch there?
Well, International Seafood Company, SIMAC, is a state-of-art facility. It's almost aiming to get, and they've almost achieved that, zero waste when it comes to the production. And we won't be able to achieve that unless we have a proper engagement with our stakeholders, so with our contractors, with our consultants, with the team. And I must admit that one of the biggest efforts, it's from SEZAD as well. SEZAD, they've helped the team quite well in navigating through the difficulties we have when it comes to the issuing certifications or getting the right authorization. SEZAD was the one pit stop, I would say, for all the services, where you find different ministries or authorities, offices in one place. So you don't have that hassle where you have to run here and there to get the things moved forward. You just go one place, and the people in SEZAD, the staff over there, they are very friendly, and they will accommodate your requirements and try to fulfill your wish list.
Okay. Reggy, I'm going to move over to you. You are also a founder. You're one of the people, the first team that started operations in the port of Duqm back in 2012 when it first went operational. Of course, we had the official launch not too long ago of the port of Duqm. So you started off being a commercial director for the Port of Duqm, and then you became the CEO, and you've been doing it for a while now. You've seen it grow truly. And you were there before investments started rolling into Duqm. From your perspective, how are we doing right now in regards to our journey for Duqm, and what's it looking like from the import-export perspective of Duqm Port, which is the gateway to the rest of the world?
I think for me it's a fantastic journey, and what I can qualify Duqm is the adaptability that we had over the time. Because if you look, you're mentioning 2012, and actually the project itself is way older than 2012. But at the beginning, it was really a project that was focusing on hydrocarbon, on refinery. There was place for 6 refinery. There was place for large petrochemical and upstream, downstream. So it was really around that, and the fishery and food industry. That was really the big theme. And I think as the world evolved, as the opportunity evolves, Duqm did evolve too. And that is for me the really interesting part, is that we have been able to adapt Duqm, the environment, the logistic, the infrastructure to the needs of the market. So today we're mentioning we went through a very intense green agenda around 2019, 2022 with the hydrogen and this transformation that will eventually happen. But what is interesting today, if you look a bit of how the journey evolved, and I'll come to the import-export after, you really see that today Duqm as a whole is focusing on being a place where investment means or meets the flexibility. What I mean by that is that you have the opportunity to tap on the old way of doing. We have gas, we have oil, we have fuel, all that is available. But we have also a very large green industry that is starting, from green electricity coming from windmills and solar panel, to the derivative of it being hydrogen, ammonia, methanol that will come, to also the project around carbon capture. So all these different elements means that when you are an investor, and not to repeat what was been said before, but when you're talking about stability, location, but on top of that, you can put a layer of energy diversification and the availability of it and the vision around it. That's quite unique. So I think that what I'm passionate about is the fact that we have been able to adapt ourselves while serving the nation and putting an agenda and a future, and future-proofing Duqm and Oman at large, but Duqm in particular, to what could be the industry of tomorrow. Then when it comes to infrastructure, I think that an import, export, Duqm started without a population around, without an industry around. So it's really built for purpose. So we have no legacy, and whatever we're growing organically at over 20-25% year on year, constantly. So this is something that people are forgetting. Yes, we don't have the volumes of some neighboring port, but we have been constantly growing, and most importantly, our efficiency has been completely in line with the industry market. So we are loading and unloading at the same space. We are HSC at the same level. Our price at the same level. So we are being able to work with potential clients like Jindal, building the supply chain around the fishery in a very pragmatic way, and as I said earlier, a fit for purpose.
You mentioned there that you said, we have no legacy. We started off with a small population. It is true, because when we look at the main ports, you have Sahar Port, Salala Port, Bin Al Fahal, these are all coming up in the 3 biggest cities in the country. You started off with a fishing village. With this edge that you have when it comes to the infrastructure that's been set up, what do you hope the legacy will be? Where do you see Duqm going from here? Let's say if we look 5 years ahead, what is our plan?
I'm really looking for the future and our future generation, and I think that I know there's turmoil, but the green agenda is something that is necessary for the next generation. There's no discussion around that. And I think that's what I'm really excited about, is that I see Duqm playing a pivot role, not only for Oman, but also regionally and even globally in that field. I think that, as we mentioned earlier, the sun availability, the wind availability, the land availability that we have is next to none. And with that, we can really position ourselves. So if you ask me where I see Oman in 20, 30 years, or Oman and Duqm in particular in this year, I see a place where we will be generating green energy at large, while having the backbone of a carbon industry. And strong from these two elements, we will have attracted, like Jindal, company that have the means to transition over time to a greener future. And I think that this is really unique, and I see it happening already, and that's what excites me a lot.
Harssha, when it comes to looking at the infrastructure that Duqm currently has and the potential that is there, why is Jindal Steel looking at making such a big investment there? What is it that Duqm offers to you?
So we see, as I mentioned to you, Duqm see the color of the future enterprise is green. So the energy of a future-ready enterprise is going to be green energy, and Duqm ranks in the top 3 in the world in terms of the potential to deliver green energy to the projects which need green energy. And what is going to be produced in Duqm is going to be low carbon footprint, and this is what the whole world will want by 2035. So not many pockets in the world have this unique advantage of not only having the green energy abundance, but at the same time having a very compelling investment case because of the Duqm SEZ, along with the port infrastructure. That's one. The other thing is, of course, as I've always mentioned, there is a transition element. So Duqm has the unique advantage of allowing investments to come in, start using natural gas or the conventional energy, and then gradually transition to green energy. There are places which can give you green energy today, but without this transition roadmap, a lot of businesses fail. So this is a unique advantage which Duqm has. And but there is one more thing I would like to say, area of improvement is that which we all can do together. If there can be some marquee projects in terms of building the social ecosystem immediately, like in the education sector. See, Duqm is going to have some of the largest industrial ecosystems very soon. And if we can build some technical institutes of global standards, we can the students passing out of that can have the opportunity to learn from enterprise in the same location. You have refinery, you have steel industries, you have the future-ready renewable power and hydrogen industry. So this is a very unique combination. So something on that front, if it can be built, which I believe work is going on, and that is extremely encouraging.
Just to add one thing, Talal, what Mr. Harssha was mentioning, I believe because also the renewable energy coming to Duqm and Duqm becoming as a hub place for renewable energy projects like the hydrogen or wind turbines, that ecosystem also encourage companies who are coming to the Duqm to take that initiative when it comes to the environment-friendly kind of process of manufacturing. Take an example of SIMAC with a zero wastage in production. I mean, even the water that we used to use it for thawing, we re-purified that and reuse it again for cooling down equipment or irrigation. We've signed a contract, I remember, with one of the companies in Oman to have the largest solar power on top of a roof building in Oman. So, I mean, all the companies who are coming to Duqm as well, taking that in consideration because the ecosystem in there is encouraging that and providing all the solution with regarding to the friendly or environmental friendly solutions.
Reggy, as someone who's been living in Duqm now for 14 years or so, when we mentioned earlier, it started off as a fishing village. Do you see actual potential of it becoming an actual city filled with life and people, as Zakariya and Harssha want it to be?
I think definitely it will come, and actually it's already coming to a certain extent. We're discussing before with Zakariya about the increase of the school. There are now international school in Duqm, 2 or 3 of them that are giving the curriculum until grade 12. IB also. So the education is coming. We are working also with partner about vocational college. I think that's something that is we've been always talking a lot about school. We're talking a lot about university, which is great. But you were mentioning just before the work itself, which for us is go through vocational college. And I think that's something that has a great future. We're looking at some related to port infrastructure and port work, but steel industry, fishing industry, all these industry will require over time a lot of manpower. And these are great opportunities for Omanis to actually get trained in these fields directly next to companies that tomorrow can employ them. And I think that's an ecosystem that is coming. We are working on it. I guess you're also working on that. So these elements covering the gap between the high school and the university is something that's also been addressed in Duqm. So this is on the training side and education side. I think on the more lifestyle, it is not the place where you have nightclubs, but it's a place of nature. I go there with my family to have camping. I go there to enjoy the beach. I go there to even enjoy. There is a bowling in Duqm, so there are things that are there also for families, and it's so. And for people like sorry.
Just to add, very rightly mentioned is that the 65% of Oman's population is youth under 35, and especially what Reggy mentioned, between 12th to say graduation, the vocational training. If we can get a great vocational institute, and if the students can start coming in now, and they get used to the Duqm ecosystem, that there are a lot of a percentage of the population which really loves the nature. So if they can have a technical vocational institute with the best training infrastructure just around hands-on training, I think the ability to employ skilled manpower for these projects is going to be a very compelling benefit which Duqm can offer. You have the youth and you have the training infrastructure already. You just need an institute to bridge the youth availability and the opportunity availability.
That's a great opportunity for investors to look into. Speaking of investors, back to you, Reggy. You, of course, deal with supply chains going all over the world. What are the questions that people from outside of Oman, what are the questions that they're asking of you? And are the questions tougher now? When we look at anything that might be happening in the area, what are people's main worries, and how can you answer them when they consider Duqm?
So for years, not only Duqm, but Oman in general, has been positioning itself and spending or spreading the message of logistic hub, logistic opportunity. And I think that what happened over the last crisis, be it COVID, be it Bab el-Mandeb, be it the evergreen situation in Suez Canal, and so on. We see that constantly over the last 10 years, the supply chain have been disturbed for many different reasons. And what is happening is that we see that every time there is a disturbance in the region, Oman come back on the map and say, oh, actually, it's a place that has potential to distribute toward the GCC, but also towards India, towards Africa. And this is something that keeps coming back on a cyclic point of view. What I'm saying to the persons now, and at each cycle of these disturbances, I said, yes, sure, we can help you. And we are helping them in the moment of disturbance. But we're also helping them to build a sustainable value chain, logistic value chain for the long run. And for me, how it works, people tend to forget. You have a crisis, you're in urgent mode, you find a solution. We, Oman at large, help in the solution. And then the origin of the crisis is removed. And then people go back to the good old time. What we have been now focusing and working on is actually, yes, sure, come back to the way you're doing before, but keep a part of your logistic alive via Oman in general, because if and when a new crisis comes, then you are already on the ground, you know the players, you know the actors, you know how to ramp up your logistic. And we see that more and more. And by extension of that, once people are using a base for logistic, then suddenly they're saying, actually, we should do more in logistic. We should do manufacturing here. We should do long-term storage. And this is a bit the story of, and I'll do these two parallels, of the oil and gas. If you see for the Middle East in general, it all started by just exporting crude oil and gas. No refining, no petrochemical, we're just exporting. And once these were fully operational and tested, then refinery came. And then after petrochemical came, and then downstream came. And so you're attracting over time. That took years. When it comes to green, for example, well, the fact that a company like Jindal is investing in Duqm in particular, they are also doing it because they know that actually tomorrow the green molecule will be available. So that flow that used to be later is actually reversing. And I strongly believe that when we have crisis, that logistic will play the same catalyst. We are having the logistic, putting it in place, and then the different element along this logistics chain then starts joining and coming.
Looking at opportunities and Duqm, the world needs to eat. So there's always food, and we have agricultural products, we have fisheries products moving all over the world at any given time. Every second, there's tons and tons and tons moving around. Where does Duqm factor in with this? What growth can we see there? What can we see them taking over?
Maybe on a logistic point of view, what we are working on is you have Oman with its location, and around us you have Africa, for example. Africa is producing a lot of vegetables, producing a lot of fruits. Today, these are put in bulk carriers, and they are sailed quite far away to be processed, then shipped again to go to Europe, to go to Asia, etc. Well, most of them actually are going in the vicinity of Oman and Duqm in particular. So we are working, for example, to divert the ships to say, listen, come, the value chain we have to offer is a shorter distance from the production site to us, then from us again to the overall big market, being back to Africa, India, but beyond Europe and Asia. These are huge opportunity in the food business. And we're talking fruits, we're talking cattle for Somalia, we're talking a potential fish that today are going to the Seychelles, that are going to Mauritius. These are all production sites in the direct neighborhood of Oman, and we are ambitioning to become a hub for these raw material, let's say. And I think maybe Zakariya been in the processing can...
Yeah, well, regarding the potential of the food industry in at Duqm, there's a strong potential to grow. I mean, for SIMAC, the aim of the company, as we mentioned before, is to make 100 million cans. And as I mentioned before, if you put those cans in a line, it will reach you to Sydney from here, just to give an idea how big is it. Now that's for SIMAC, but for other companies in the fisheries sector, there is also a huge growth in there. I know some of the foreign investments are coming in Duqm to make value-add centers in there. And when SEZAD, when I was talking to the SEZAD team, they are actually planning for a whole industrial area for a cold chain. That cold chain will bring other products in there, so the pipeline will be even thicker. Not just we're talking about the fisheries over here, we are talking about the other type of food industry or sustainable products. So yes, there is a huge potential when it comes to Duqm. You've got the raw materials, you've got a proper logistics system, you've got the proper ecosystem that supports all of that in a green, sustainable way. So I believe there will be a huge growth in the future when it comes to the food industry.
So I would just like to add two very valid points made by Reggy and Mr. Zakariya. You see, Duqm, if you look at the map of the world, plot the consuming markets, the developed consuming markets, Duqm is at the center of the world. You have, you take Australia, you take Europe, in terms of the markets, even the US, and then you take the largest consuming market, 1.4 billion people, is just a few days away, just a few hours away from Duqm. In fact, that is India. So you have, and this is about the consuming markets. Then you have the raw material markets, say Africa and also India for perishable goods and some bulk raw materials. So if you look at all these things, when you plot for both raw materials as well as markets, Duqm is at the center. And we have a very compelling factors, as I mentioned, both conventional energy as well as future energy. And most importantly today, the biggest currency is geopolitical stability without a geographical choke point. Duqm has it all. So Duqm, I believe, firmly is the answer for a bright future for Oman as well as a bright tomorrow for the whole world.
What a powerful statement to end this episode with. What a pleasure it's been with all three of you. Harssha Shetty, Reggy Vermuelen, Zakariya Al Hasni. It's been a true pleasure to have you on our latest episode of the Duqm Now podcast. To our listeners and viewers, you can find this on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. Just type in Duqm Now. I'm Talal Al Shahri. See you next time.